Hello, my name is Nota Feinstein. One of my web locations is called Hasidic Nurses Notes. Why would I select that combination? Well, first of all, I have some insights being a Hasidic Jew. I grew up in Reform. There I had the name Norman, but some comes in Nota, which is actually a Yiddish name. I'm also a registered nurse, licensed in the United States. So therefore, it's possible that I could reconcile the conceptual presentation of separation of church and state, and that's attempt to. In addition, I'm neither a top rabbi or a doctor, so therefore I'm a lot like all of you, having very backgrounds, geographic hometowns, different areas of the country, educational experiences, points of views, life experiences. So that we have a lot in common, and we have a lot to offer each other from our varied outlooks. I hope to share with you in that light. This presentation is called Cotton Candy Words because it represents something about the essence of some concepts and words that we often run into. And that is that conceptually, in the dictionary, words and ways are impressive and we really have an impression. But once they get out into the modality of speech through the mouth, then sometimes they lose their effect. Now, reverses a little bit with cotton candy. Initially, it looks good, the same, but once it gets into the mouth, it dissipates rapidly and has no substance. But there's my parallel. So, at first glance, something could seem to have a virtue, but after a while, losing it. How about the word humility? That's a real virtue. It's admirable. But if you have a speaker open up the presentation and said, I'm saying this with all humility, then the dictionaries come out and we look up to find out what the word really means. And does it apply for the speaker and to the topic? Your humility could be humbled once it leaves the lips. Another word or concept that has recently gained a lot of publicity and use, and that is anti Semitism. As mentioned above, the repeated use of anti Semitism could really lessen its future influence. Please let me explain without intending to decrease its relevance or significance. Anti Semitism is well documented for thousands of years, but rarely has exploration of its details, descriptions, investigations, evaluations, public awareness, and political mechanics caused the prevention of the recurrence of anti Semitism, or if it does recur, the rapid cessation of its effects. Expression related in modern times is never again. After World War II and the Holocaust and the years following, never again seemed like something that would last. How can any of this happen again? And we will be prepared, whatever it takes, to stop it. Once again, never again seems to be falling into the category of cotton candy, where it's expected effect is beginning to dissipate. And perhaps now, instead of never again, it's like once again. Here, who listens to the broadcasts, the public forums, and rallies and speeches? Who's listening to these? Well, I initially tried to break it down into three categories. One are people who are interested. Two, people who are not interested. And three are people who could be interested. Each one has its own format. The ones who are interested are likely well versed with the word anti Semitism, understand it, know the meaning, and unfortunately, many have experienced it. The question is repeated watching of all these videos and the speeches. What's going to come from that after the initial reinforcement that is happening? Do we have direct lines to the President of the United States? Do we have a hotline to the Prime Minister of Israel? And similarly, are we connected with the Secretary General of the United Nations? So, yes, we need to be informed, but we have to be careful that the intensity and the energy may be better spent taking care of our own personal surroundings and family and neighborhoods. Helping those who are in need, whom we can reach and whom we can help, notwithstanding that support all around the world can be given in many ways. Not group that not interested are most likely people who support the acts of anti-Semitism and the concept. So it would be good if they would see the other hand, the other side of the story, and the truths, and the refutation of the lies. The chances are they won't be watching. Either they're somewhere else, or they'll be watching the social media. This supports their perverted outlook. For the third category, we asked the question, who's to say they're going to be watching? Now, it could be that people want to keep up with the media, what's going on. It's fascinating, or they are concerned about mankind. And these people who could be affected and influenced and be influential themselves, what are we doing to actually cultivate them, to get their attention, and to inform them and to sustain their interest? You know, empathy and sympathy are wonderful attributes, but they're still an emotional item, and they still run the chance of running out of steam over time. Which worsens that effect is that um, time heals all wounds, as they say, and that could be a positive thing or it could be a negative thing. But after a time, people will begin to ignore. And if we keep on using the word anti-Semitism, then we run into the psychological defense mechanism of denial. A person will ignore the fact, this happens in medicine often, that they feel pain, but they don't want to go to the emergency room because it can't be me, it can't happen. You don't want to find out if it is, and they have to go to therapy and treatment. And therefore, they don't seek diagnosis, care. It could save them a lot of troubles in the future. So only hearing anti-Semitism could lead a person to say, well, this is really a Jewish problem, not my problem. When in fact, anti-Semitism is everybody's problem. Not a direct suggestion, but a concept for presentation to really bring people into our alliance is to present, rather than anti-Semitism as purely a Jewish problem, superficially, is to say, first the Jews, then you. And this is real. You only have to look at the World Trade Center 9/11, the bombing in Boston in 2013, at the Boston Marathon, where innocent people were brutally maimed by an explosion of pressure cooker bombs put down in their midst. And so it goes on. I mean, if you experienced air travel 20, 30 years ago, and compare it now, you know the difficulty is and the expense because of security measures that are necessarily in effect. When did they all start? I mean, imagine if you look back, you'll see close to right after 9/11. There was some security before, and not like this. And this affects everybody. Doing the direct focus on seeking out and recognizing anti-Semites has another problem. It diverts attention away from the existence and the need to develop and recognize our allies. These are people who find anti-Semitism and anything similar as disgusting, evil, need correction. Now you may wonder, do people like this exist in the world? Do we have friends out there? You know, I'm sure you're not saying that because you only have to look at what I call the 3Ds. That's the first name of the President of the United States, first name of a well-known British journalist who's gone out of his way, even before October 7th, to stand by the Jews and stand by the truth of Israel and the existence of the Jewish people. And finally, not last really, but another D, is a doctor who's a famous psychologist from Texas, who himself is very well known in the media. He's done an extensive amount of work and research and speaking on behalf of the Jewish people in Israel. So these people exist. If you check the media, there's even more developing. We have to be conscious of that and cultivate their friendship. Now, you might realize there's another problem with this exclusive, intense use of the word anti-Semitism. This is mirrored by a famous expression from a noted showman in the 20th century who said, I don't care what you say about me, just make sure you spell my name right. Meaning that any publicity is good publicity for the person receiving it. Maybe not immediately, but afterwards. As whether they're doing the right thing or the wrong thing. So when we focus on anti-Semitism and anti-Semites, we are feeding the evil behind that. They're getting the publicity. some people will go out of their way to get attention, even doing the negative. And this is personified by this. So the continued emphasis on anti-Semites and the back burner of our allies is counterproductive for us. Now you may wonder, well, Jews are supposed to be people apart. Are we to be befriending these people and working so closely with concepts, deep concepts? And there's reason for saying that. We have the situation called the mixed multitude or the era of Rav. These are the people who were in Egypt at the time the Jews were slaves. And they witnessed the miracles, miracle what God did for the Jewish people and it did to the Egyptians. The Jews left Egypt with great wealth. They left Egypt walking out in front of everybody. They left Egypt with the king hastening their departure. This goes against nature. And this era of Rav, this mixed multitude, saw that they wanted to pick the winning team and get on the bandwagon. Moses agreed to let them convert, and he took them. Once in the desert, once on the way to Mount Sinai, once hearing more of the obligations of the Jews, because the Jews were taken out of Egypt not just to be freed, but to serve God, His Torah and commandments. So things got a little shaky. Tolerances were short. And the Arab Rav, mixed multitude, is given I don't want to say credit, but the blame for instigating the creation of the golden calf, which was a tremendous downfall for the Jewish people. So that may cause one to say we have to maintain our distance. On top of it, we are called a people to dwell alone. And that doesn't mean 100%. If you want to go that route, stop doing business with non-Jews. Don't buy from them and don't sell to them. Might not be so easy. So there is a tolerance for involvement and a necessity for involvement. You find in the Torah literature, the Jews are called to light unto the nations. And that's not with them being in a lighthouse on an isolated island in the ocean, shining onto the mainland. We have to be out there, shoulder to shoulder, many times our occupations, and neighbors, and we have the opportunity to shine the light of God's will and develop their recognition of God, the God's ways, because also in Torah doctrine is what we call the 7 mitzvahs, the 7 commandments of the children of Noah, the Noahide code, where we are commanded to give this Torah concept, the original concept, present it, help develop it. And they're not going to get it from books and videos exclusively. They need a personal touch. They need people who know what they're talking about. Because it's in the media, Orthodox rabbis will tell you, the people from other backgrounds are looking to God and they're looking to Jews to find out what Judaism has for them. And it's not conversion as the first front line. Conversion is not encouraged. It's not a mitzvah to convert people. It can be done, there's pathways for it. But the primary focus for our interaction spiritually with the non-Jewish nations is the seven laws of the children of Noah. So with that in mind, that we have to develop this relationship, cultivate it, because if we don't, where are they going to get the information from? Well, who's going to get the information that they're receiving on the media and filter it for them and put it in perspective? And don't think that if we ignore them, well, they just go to atheism, which could be worse. No, these are people who recognize God is in the world. And through their diligence, they recognize that the Jewish Torah has the information for taking His guidance. Another significant reason for avoiding the intense focus on anti-Semitism is that it implies that man, the anti-Semites, are the ultimate authority and controller of world events, and we can only succumb to them. Even basic philosophies don't allow that. Historically, how many empires, monarchies, political systems have threatened to take control of the world, and for some part have. But you look back in history, and they never really fully fulfilled their destiny, what they thought was their destiny. And it's well documented, even in the literatures. There was a poem by a poet named Shelley in the mid 1700s called Ozymandias, which depicted a powerful king, highly powerful king, who felt that he was in control of the world and that everybody should tremble before him. And he made a statue to depict that. And what's presented is years later how that statue is in ruins, dust and rock. Also, a famous line from a poem from Robert Burns: the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. So the best planning, anybody, is not guaranteed. And finally, the Jewish presentation of this, one of it is from the Hasidic text called the Tanya, which was written by Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, called the Alter Rebbe. And this is in the very late 1800s. And if you have that book, it's in the fourth book of the book. It has 4 sections in the 25th chapter, and it goes at length describing the misjudgment of mankind, of getting angry when they are faced with an insult, whether damages physically, financial, character. If they get angry with it, they are denying the involvement of God. So you may say, well, I'm supposed to take it. No. You can protect yourself. It's self-defense. If it's already occurred, you have courts of justice. And not only that, person can, be approached out of court. Person is saying, do you realize what you did to me? What you said to me? And possibly you can work it out yourselves. So there's a way to resolve these things. But anger is not in the format. We believe that there is no place devoid of God. God is everywhere. Everything's within God. And not only that, God controls the world. You know, divine providence, you've heard that. So everything's in the hand of heaven. So what's for man? In the hands of man is the opportunity to deal properly with what's in front of him, what his experience, what he has to deal with. And that comes from recognizing the ways of God. And God has intent in the world, is involved in the world, and how to deal with these things according to God's ways. And again, this comes from the study of Torah and for performance of mitzvahs.